writing time, right, descriptive time, into something. And so if you can revisit it on a practical level, you can save yourself. The writer, the reader already knows about this, or the reader is accustomed to Emily, wanting to come back home or in a home setting. So it's a sort of I think a familiar thing for the reader, which is nice, but also a practical, right, for the
Right.
writer. You
I'm
don't
not
have
sure.
to lay the ground. You don't have to lay the foundation of some whole new, setting or
That's
character
true.
or
I
something.
think in the story, as I'm reading it, that I had incorporated this wanting to be home already in the story, but also it hit me over the weekend. I said, wait a minute, that's a major theme, is wanting to go home without
Mm,
the ruby slippers,
mm.
so to speak.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's a
And
good key, and yeah, you're right.
so,
Mythic
yeah,
symbol.
in a way,
Yeah.
she's sort of doing like a Wonderland, not Oz type journey where, uh, her whole world's completely spinning out of control, and she dies, and she pops up, um, and she's got to figure out what's going on before she gets killed again. And so far, I like it. The
Okay.
next step after
All
I
right.
finish reading it is I'm going to come up here to the computer and start doing my dragon and starting to get it into the computer so I could get it to everybody to see what they think.
All
Right
right.
on.
Good. I'm glad to hear everybody's so creative, and I think the weather helps us with that in some, to some degree. I don't know. I always feel like in spring I'm, just naturally energized. I've been writing too. I've been
Oh,
writing
good.
another short story, a real different style, love story. So
Whoa, good.
hopefully very, very painful.
Love stories can
Oh,
be.
All good
Yeah.
love affairs can be.
oh, a good
So,
agony. A good agony. I
a
love
good
it.
agony, but not only agony. It has to be,
No, no, some sweetness too.
of
Yeah.
course, very
Yep.
sweet and very and also very sour, right? So,
Hmm.
uh,
Hopefully.
yeah, I'm excited. I'm enjoying it. I'm starting to write like I'm starting to come up with a bit of a system where I start with the outlining and then break it down into the sentence level. I think that it's an interesting.
One of these days we'll have to go over that process. I would love to
Yeah.
hear what your thoughts are, you know?
Yeah. You could have stumbled onto something we could all use.
Yes.
Who knows? You can always take little pieces and bits and pieces from everywhere. I
Hmm.
think.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah.
so let's go on to our writing spaces, right? So your writing workspace. So where is it? And you could speak if it's meaningful for you that you have a place. I know Tom does. If you have a place, then speak on that. Or if it's more of a headspace, like for me, we can speak on that too. So Ricky, you have a writing space, like a certain physical space that
I've
you
been lately it's been different because I've been taking care of Granny more regular. So I have to take my own writer space. But speaking classical Ricky, when things were different, I have a nice foamy couch in front of a desk, and
mm,
I would sit with some beautiful YouTube video on that was playing an ambient track or some soundtrack of a movie. And
mhm.
sometimes it's blaring loud. Sometimes it's blasting. Other times it's just a suggestion of it in the background. And you just focus. Either drink a cup of coffee, a glass of whiskey, some wine.
Woohoo.
Just don't think about todayness, nowness. Go into a timeless, speaking to your headspace. Go to a timeless moment beyond all your concerns, which will be waiting for you when you return. I assure you, they'll be there. So your creative expression helps to alleviate that stress, at least in my opinion. That's the headspace I'm in while I'm writing. I'm there to do that. And I get episodic satisfaction from that and a regular world yield. So my stuff works. If it doesn't work, then I go to elsewhere. So that's it. You move. If you have to move, you move.
Very good. Uh oh, we lost somebody.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. So what do you think,
Cool.
Paul? Do you have a physical space or a mental space that you
My
often visit?
physical space actually is where I live. I have a very small apartment. I have a large table in the middle of that apartment, and that's where I sit and write. It's also, it's adjacent to the TV. So sometimes the ball game's on there, but more likely it could be TCM. Just classic movies. It's kind of like white noise in any event back there, and it's just blocking out, the ambience of
Hmm.
outside. Uh, the I'm looking what I'm looking for myself is kind of a dream state in which the story gets told to me and I just write it down. Sometimes that happens, more often than not, actually, and I'm perfectly happy, transcribing whatever the hell it is, whoever it is that's telling me the story is that. That's fine. The uh, just and kind of second guessing that person is like, oh no, she should be wearing a green dress, it's whatever, and it, of course, it he always listens to me, so I'm in good shape.
Yeah,
You know,
sounds familiar.
Excellent.
yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Interesting. So Ben, where's your physical or mental space that you go to when you're writing?
So I'm at it right now. I have a small apartment here, and I just have pretty medium sized desk and laptops on there. I got a nice big comfy chair. I've got a Bluetooth speaker in the back, and I've got the vinyl player there. So it's usually
Ooh.
something on iTunes or Spotify or a vinyl that's playing in the background that I write to every time or edit. So I can't edit or write without music. So
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
it's very comfortable, and the space is good. Prior to living here, I had another space where it would be a TV room in an old apartment, and I just sit there. But now, for the last 3.5 years, 3+ years, it's been here, and it's just very comfortable for me. And
That's good.
Good. Excellent. Very good. All right, Tom. So what about you? What physical, mental space for writing?
I have three spaces. One is no longer available to me. When I first met my wife, I was volunteered to work at my soon-to-be sister-in-law's place. She was a banquet manager at the Victorian Manor in Edison, and I got volunteered to do the co-check room Friday and Saturday nights. So about 2 o'clock, I would get there, and the party would start about 5, and it would take an hour to check in. And from 6 o'clock till midnight, every Friday and Saturday, I had all that time to myself. No one bothered me except to drop off food or whatever. So I wrote about 1,000 pages of my fantasy epic right on that spot.
Not
Oh,
1,000
great.
words. Not 1,000 words, FYI. 1,000 pages.
1,000 pages, at least 1,000 pages. I used to do 7, 8, 10 pages a night.
Thousands of words.
And because it was just pouring out of me at that time of my life.
And you're talking about Verema and Sharilla and all that?
Right. Yeah.
Right on.
I did 2.5 novel and a half there easily there. My current favorite space is in the timeshare in Florida, where I write my Florida novel. I get up about 6 days a week, or the 6 days were there, mornings were there. I get up about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I know I have at least 2.5 hours to myself to just to write. So I put the tea on, and I spread out, and I write for a while. I drink my tea. I go for a half hour. I go for a walk for about a half hour. Come back. I write for another hour. It's very inspiring down there, especially if we're at our room has the ocean view, and I can open a window and I can hear the waves crashing, which is very, very.
Very
And I
nice.
also downstairs in the back of the resort is a patio that I go and write it too. It's in the evening. It's really nice. There's no mosquitoes when we go there. And so currently my current favorite writing spot is every morning when I wake up, I set up the card table in the living room where my wife is going to do her 9 to 5 job. And so I sit there and I turn the light on, and I have a card table, and I just write right there. It's nice and comfortable on the couch. And so that's
Marvelous.
Yeah, as far as mental headspace, I could write anywhere, anytime. I just have to
Mm.
grab a pen and a piece of paper. I don't have to worry about being in a kind of state,
Mhm.
as it were. And if I'm at my job, if a
Good.
story hits me on my job, I just grab some papers and start going. I did a couple stories there.
Well,
Um,
it's good to be versatile because then you can essentially be more productive, right? So, I mean, if you can write, if you can kind of change your, sometimes I'll be in a bad mood, but I have the opportunity to write. And so,
ooh,
you got to like work through it, right? So,
right,
and you want to use the time well, right? Because time is everything, right? To write.
sure,
So yeah, so being versatile, so being able to write in various places, I think can really
sure.
help you. um Although I think it's easy to use writing as a way to change your mindset too, right? Like if you're focusing on something that was unpleasant or a problem you're having, and then you put it away for a while, completely shift your attention to something else,
Mm,
that can be, I think, a big relief.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
sure.
Find that too, Ricky? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes the creative process, like if I'm writing horror and it's real spooky, my mind is in that spookiness.
Oh,
So
sure.
it haunts my whole day, could haunt my whole week.
That's
And
good.
if you do a really good chapter where the chapter's done and you're like, man, that's a keeper. And that bolt of satisfaction that floods through you, that can just bring you into elation after maybe a bummer where it's like something weird's going on or something unpleasant, nothing, how life is, especially lately, creativity lifts me up most of the time,
Hmm.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah. Yep.
I think it's a treat to have time alone, to be with your own
Oh yeah.
thoughts and just sort of
Sure.
indulge yourself in that fantasy world.
Broken
I
as a
think
Yeah.
it's
mother.
very pleasurable. Writing's becoming a little bit more of that to me and less of the is it working, is it not working? I think it can be a drag. I mean, it can be they talk about writer's block. But I think that I've had that. I mean, I felt like kind of paralyzed in a writing space. Um,
I
but
know. I know what you mean. I have a prescription for that too.
mm,
Um, that's related to the next topics is if you feel trapped in a writing space, this happened to me years ago. If you feel trapped in a writing space, you have to establish another writing space
Hmm.
somewhere else, and
mhm,
then you won't feel trapped. And then if you have 2 or 3 of those, like I did, eventually the block doesn't. I mean, I'm not trying to no jinx or whatever, but the block hasn't happened to me in a long time, fortunately. you know, that's all I can say because I wouldn't want it to.
yeah.
But you feel you get blocked up sometimes, writer's
I
block.
mean, I think that I don't think it's a block. I don't think that it was necessarily like you couldn't write. But
Mhm.
I think it's the idea is the decisions or the directions I was going in were just not ideal for me personally and also for the reader.
I
I
see.
think
I
I,
see.
I think you can get lost in a direction that and all directions can be fruitful, right? But I think that maybe not all directions. I think you can get spinned around in circles sometimes that are not that productive, or if you look at it from an outside perspective, they're maybe not even that enjoyable. I don't know.
Hmm.
Has been
Yeah,
my experience at least.
I find
that's
a cure for any whenever I feel writer's block creeping up on me is to have 3 or 4 projects running at the same time
Mhm.
in the
oh
middle of
yeah.
something. And what I'm working on, if it starts to feel like it's drying up, I'll put it down and I'll say, what else do I have? Ooh, the new Pencrim story. I'll start working on that one. Or you know, and
I agree 300% with Tom right now. I can't. That is as important as whatever I just said, if not more so, because then you don't feel in a rut, right? Like you
right.
could just jump to the next thing if that's what your muse wants to do.
Yep. You don't
I
feel like
agree.
writing a horror story, grab the fantasy or the science fiction or the love story, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
or edit something, go back to
Right.
a story and reread. Oh, I need to ask people about the Sherlock Holmes story because I'm going to be submitting it Friday. But anyway,
Yeah. No, right on.
I need to get some
Yeah,
feedback on.
and if you're at
Anyway,
the end, like you're having trouble with the end of a story, right? It might
uh-huh.
help you to start at the beginning of another story so that you're not, you're not sort of ruminating. And that's what I mean by an unproductive space. Like if you can't figure something out, right? Like
Mhm.
endings can be a little rough, right? I mean, every once in a while you have this, I'm not sure about the end still, right? So if you can't find it, it's really good to just do a different project, right?
Yeah, you put it
Let it
down.
alone. But I think that
Yes.
advice, Tom, is very good, I think.
Yeah, very good. I have like 10 projects that I'm working on that I just juggle day to day. I
Mm.
could list them. And it's as Tom says, it didn't occur to me, of course, to say anything about it. I'm glad Tom picked up the ball there. That's great. But you're absolutely right about that. The more you line up, then you wake up like in that morning or in that moment, and you'll be like, I want to write this. Maybe you thought you were going to work on this all day, a novel, but then all of a sudden you're working on the other project. Uh, Lining it all up is important. I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
Like for
Yeah.
instance, this past weekend I was doing the Florida story Saturday and Sunday. I woke up Monday, I had Monday off. I said, you know, am I too important a spots in this right now with the relationship that he's developing to just switch over and read Emily. So Monday I spent doing more Florida work. And
Yep.
so I got that ironed out. I got that to a point where I could say, okay, I can they have a relationship and it's going to be okay from here on in. I can move on, I can let it go for a while.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
So do you guys ever feel like your writing space is reflecting in your story? So wherever
ooh.
you are physically, that you're starting to appear there in the story all the time. I think it could get a little drab. I was in an office a lot, so I was always writing about offices all the time. But it doesn't have to be that way, right?
No.
I look for that time actually. I try to work in, if there's a movie going on in the background, let's say, half the time I'll try to work in, whatever random events going on in the film, into my story.
Is
Uh,
that right?
yeah,
Hmm.
no good reason. I just do it.
Like just as
And
a backstory thing, like as
yeah,
a.
as an intrusion, as an aside.
Sure.
Uh, it leavens the story and
Mhm.
moves it along. It was, it's and I like it actually. There was a point in this thing, this science fiction thing, where someone had to translate an ancient script. Suddenly, it was just sitting there, a scrap of paper with a statement on it. The statement was "Go Penguins." What the hell does that mean? Where does that come from? Why would anyone say that? And
Nice.
it, it and it was like, it's either, an exhortation of, some who knows what, or it's just a thing that some Antarctic uh, laborer had to say, about some, he's panhandling waterfowl,
Mhm.
coming up at his go Penguins, get out. And
Nice.
no one knew why. It was just there. And
Cool.
Right on.
I do a similar thing is I listen to a lot of audiobooks as I write the first draft. And once in a while, what I'm writing, what I'm listening to flavors my work. Like in the Emily story, I remember I was listening to a lot of Ray Bradbury, and my writing started to get very lyrical and very Bradbury-like. I said, and I said maybe this particular life, that's a pretty good thing to have a very lyrical, uh, mystical
Oh.
point of view of this particular life.
mhm.
And the next one I was listening to some Mike Hammer novel, and it got really gritty. I was like, this is, I could always edit it out, but that does kind of bleed into my stories writing sometimes. Also,
Okay.
characters. Interesting characters just pop up. Character names pop up from movies
Mhm.
all the time
Yeah.
in my stories.
Yes, I
You
have
know,
noticed that once or twice.
yeah, Mrs. Carmody, etc. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Nice.
If you pick up on it, you do. If you don't, no harm done.
It doesn't really make a difference. It's
Yeah.
whatever inspires, I guess, you know?
Yep.
I mean, how important are character names anyway, right? I mean, they
Very.
can be very important, right? They can clue
It's
you
a-
into like the true nature of the character or the story, and that, or they can be completely random. I mean, I mean, I see great stories that have both kinds of character names, right? I want to make them meaningful. I'm trying to use that as an opportunity. But what's meaningful to me is not always meaningful in general. You know,
Right.
like an intellectual sounding name, you know, may not be intellectual sounding to the average reader. So I don't always make the symbols obvious, right?
Right.
You guys have a method for your character names, or do you just kind of pull it out of the wind type of thing? Ricky, you have a method for that?
Yeah, I do. What I try to focus on is the culture that the name is arising from and how old that culture is. And that alone, when it's stacked layer upon layer of historic sediment, like I have in my Afternoty, I have an age of the deep past when when it first happened, when Afternoty just happened. And then I have like over 10,000 years after that, which is more the contemporary time. And there's multiple universes. If you come from the prime vibration of the Triverse, your name might sound one way. If you come from one world, one continent, it could alter. There's also a question of, are there dwarves? Are there elves? Are there extraterrestrials? Are there subhuman things that used to be one thing and they evolved into another? There's layers of speech. They used to speak Sumerian and now they speak something like Etruscan. You know, it's good to study names and read a bunch of cool names and then derive your names based on that obsession. Like learn about.
Meaningful. I mean, if you just go to Google and you look up a name, you're going to see the meaning or the history, or you look up a name that means something, right? You'll see like 25 different names from 5 different, dialects and whatever.
Yeah,
Sure.
I do that. I do that too. Sometimes to derive a name, I'll look for something that has either a Latin or a Greek or Sumerian, something like that, or maybe even a Japanese or something if I'm looking for that. And I just play with vowels and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
How about you? Like, do you find it difficult to name things? Because a lot of people do.
I do. I mean, I can. I don't. I'm not right now. I'm not struggling very much. I went from Eleanor to Elizabeth to Eliza.
Wow.
For my protagonist in my next story, and I really like Eliza.
Eliza's great.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Good choice. Yeah.
You have the history of the Elizabeth and the power, but you have a bit of a romance there. I'm sorry, my daughter's interrupting me. So what about you? What about you, Paul? Do you have a name strategy?
It depends. Yes, there are times when I want to, work in an ethnic structure to it, and very often I will work the ethnic structure against the against the type.
Oh, okay.
So so I've Igor Zlasny, who happens to be in the Paris Philharmonic, and then what? Are they happy to see him, or does he just piss everybody off?
So you look to craft a name that fits his role, like I say, like from that bully from the Christmas movie, Scott Farkas. That just sounds like a bully name or whatever. So you try to shape the name to the task. Like if it's a villain, you want a villainy name. Is that how it is? The hero, heroic, or sort of? I mean, maybe not even that specific, right?
Yeah, either that or the opposite. And then make the the villain, Edgeworth Whippledyne the third, and
That's a good point, Paul. Yeah, right on.
Right.
All
Ben,
right.
Ben, you had some interesting names with your colors, right? In your
Yeah, that's
last
true.
novel, right? Remember how you were writing
Yeah.
with, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Julie. I was actually just thinking about that novel when you were Paul, because there's another layer to it too. I wanted them to have a last name that was characteristic of their features. Like brown would be brown hair, brown eyes, and green would be green eyes and brown hair, and white would be something separate. But also, one of the characters, the female lead in the story, Amelia Brown, she's named after a character of one of my favorite actresses of all time, Natalie Portman, in a movie that Portman does called The Other Woman, and her character name is Amelia in that. And I love that movie so much that I stole that name, first name, and I used it for Amelia Brown's first name, wanting to cast Natalie Portman as that character in my novel if it ever became a novel. So that's how that connection goes. But I was thinking about that novel. It's funny that you mentioned it.
Right on.
As well as the connection with the physical features of the characters, the eye color.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I
Thank
mean, and you could do physical features or you could do like the characteristics of them. Are they very intelligent? Are they very social? Are they very emotional? These kinds of layers. Tom, do you have a plan for your character names?
Often I do. I sometimes just give them a simple name, and then I factor in what is the character purpose. Like Emily Briggs, the name came to me in a nightmare or a dream, but I've been wrestling with the name Briggs for a long time, and I ran into somebody where I work named Briggs. I said, "What's the origin of the name Briggs?" Because those were British. The bridge builders were the Briggs.
Oh,
Oh.
I said, so maybe I could call her Emily Bridges because she takes a lot of journeys that take her into a cross, right? So that might work.
cool.
So, as far as my
Emily Bridges.
Emily Bridges,
Okay. See,
But
now you got me.
Is she Bridges or is she Briggs?
well, she's Briggs at the moment,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I might change it to Bridges because there is an Emily Briggs in the Marvel universe
Ah.
that
I'll be honest.
I didn't
I'll be
realize.
honest, Tom. I love Emily Bridges. That sounds great.
Hmm.
That sounds like, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's one like
No.
that already, but wow,
As a reader, you'd come across that, I imagine, and you wouldn't really think much, right,
Yeah.
on a conscious level, but subconsciously you might sort of feel a little bit, right, this idea of journeying elsewhere, and
it's funny.
then of course as she does that, it'll feel very natural, I think, for the reader.
Yeah, I
Right?
think Bridges
Yeah.
might work as a character name. Meaning, yeah, like I said, someone who travels in more ways than one.
Mm.
She travels to new lives, and she also traveling between lives it must be a heck of a journey,
Mm.
Oh, sure. Yep.
right?
I'd almost want to take it, further than that. Call her Emily Bridge Builder.
Yeah.
That might be a little obvious.
No, just leave it there. It's like let them figure it out. I'm gonna
I don't know
trip
if
over
there's
this.
anything to figure out. It's like right there.
Or I might pick a name, take Bridges, and see what there are other words about that are for someone who takes a journey or
Mm.
trip, or I'll have to see what other languages are out
know,
there for.
But again, like how much time can we invest in it, right? We got to also write the story,
Oh,
And
sure.
I could spend 10 weeks on a name and
Some people
there's
do.
nothing written, so
Oh, I know. What's
sometimes
his
you
name?
throw stuff out like journeyman or something, sometimes I think you got to just, go with,
Hmm.
like
But that's
not-
too obvious.
it's very obvious.
Very obvious.
Very
I
obvious.
wonder if she's gonna go on a journey or anything, man.
Yeah, I wonder.
Well, I mean, a lot of books are journeys. I mean, a lot of it's not going somewhere, sojourning. It's a hero's journey. It's a character journey.
Mhm.
So it's no great leap. It's just how best to fit it in there. Maybe you look up the word bridge in another language
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
that's not so obvious. Something Elder Day, And then that's her last name, and it does the same thing. And anyone who's hip, they're like, "Yay, look at that,
yeah.
that's clever." But anyone who's has to figure it out, they go, "Oh, see, he did something there, or whatever." And
Yeah, I mean, maybe bridge in Italian might be something really interesting,
yeah, Latin,
right?
Latin,
Or Welsh,
Latin,
or
Etruscan, or Sumerian, or whatever.
yeah.
Whatever you got to do to make it obscurated, and they go, "Oh, wow, that's weird. I feel like I've heard that word before," something like that, you know? Yeah.
And if they
Obscure
look it
a
up, they
little
say, journey. Oh, well,
Mhm.
that's cool. Yeah, I mean,
Right on, man.
anything to create little tiny hooks to keep your readers interested and
Yeah.
turning the pages,
Yep.
right?
All right, so I think we're going to just move on. I thought we would talk a few minutes about what our plans are for next week. Like, do you think you guys are going to find some writing time in your schedule for next week? And do you have anything particular you're hoping to sort of accomplish or at least begin? I'll keep going to you, Ricky, first. But if you're ready, you want to chime in on that?
I'm super excited. So it's best to just address me first. Sorry, everyone. No. I wanna get back to the rewrite of Cyberdonia. Really, really bad. I've been writing about the Dragon crime family and their corruption, how they have humanity under their claw, and they're ready to make an expansion. So there's this dimensional generator, this god in a jar, who's doing a double agency and spying on this dragon. So it's kind of like if Smog was Don Corleone, and Bilbo and the dwarves were like they were wearing a wire, like Goodfellas style.
Yeah.
And it's crazy fun. Like it's wild. I'm enjoying it. And more Blavel too. Like I want to write that big time. So I'm hoping to do that this week.
Is the dragon, is that your evil empire kind of thing?
Part of it. There are evil empires in evil empires in evil empires in this. Like there's one that provides the money. There's one that's the overwhelming military dominance. And then there's the fledgling empire that doesn't know what it's getting itself into. They think they're building towards their own, and all they're going to do is fuel this war engine. It's conspiracy. But I'm not spoiling anything because it's all wrapped up like a ball of yarn. Like it's not so easy to see through it, you know?
Yep. Life is complicated. The real world is complicated. So I can
certainly is. Yeah.
Our fiction is as well. That makes perfect sense. So what about you, Paul? What are your plans for the next week?
Next week, I've still got to get this. I've really got to get something underway in this story. I've set the stage. Now it's time to dive in. And that's what I have to do. Just push it over the edge, as it were.
Yeah.
And,
do you have like an outline in mind, or you're forming that, like you're forming the beginning, middle, end kind of thing?
I get my idea of an outline is one sentence. It's in this case it's to get the intrigue underway. Because it turns out that there are creatures living, in this impossible place.
Uh-oh. Impossible creatures.
Yes, they are basically, but so now what? They have to, and they have an impossible scheme involved in mind. So it's it's time for them to launch their scheme, which is the last thing the humans had in mind or wanted.
All right,
that sounds good.
Interesting. All right, so Ben, what do you think? What do you have planned? Do you have something particular for next week, or are you going to sort of see what happens?
I'm gonna try and keep on going with this edit for the novel. Keep going with that, and I might start a new short story. I'm not sure. I've got some ideas that I put in Google Docs for this new short story, and I just want to see where it goes, and I want to get kind of an outline going for it, so I can write it front to back easily. So I might get started on that on the weekend, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're gonna work on the edit or start the short story. It's one of the two, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool.
Interesting.
Very
How
Very
cool.
about
good.
Tom, you have something?
Yes, I have a story. The story, my Sherlock Holmes story. I want to submit it on Friday or Saturday, and I just have to. I'm going to run it through Hemingway one final time, and
Like a
uh,
grammar check, right?
yep, grammar and sentence structure, and I'm hoping it's dark enough. And it's got some.
It's tasty, man. I read it.
Did you
I
read the
read it.
final draft with the stranglings and the fog and the the creatures there in the beginning of the story also, and
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I thought it did begin with the explosion, not to drop what explodes, but now it's different now. It's in a different part, and I liked it. It was moody. Like the fog is there. Probably throw some more steak in the alleys. Other than that, like more waterfront. Other than that, I think you got it. It's real tasty. I checked it out.
yeah, I hope it's different enough for the with a classical monster for the anthologist. That's the anthology hit $50,000. Yeah, $50,000. So they're going to buy 3 more stories from 3 unpublished authors. So that's 6 total. So I have 1 in 6 chance to impress them with my story. So I'll knock wood that it's different enough and dark enough, and I who knows? I know it's a very, very different take than
You know, what's
So
lovely is that you have this Sherlock Holmes and you have this sort of traditional character that everybody loves so much, but then you can bring in like a new spin on it, right? I've been watching this show. Let's see, what is it called? Oh gosh, the Intolerables, I'm thinking something on Netflix. Anyway, so it's a reinvention again of Sherlock Holmes. They keep reinventing
Oh.
Sherlock Holmes, but I think that going back to the classic monster is a really nice spin on it, Tom. How
Yeah.
you included that, and then in the most recent draft that I read, you were bringing it in. I don't want to spoil it, but you were sort of layering that element in the story a little more.
Right, and I want to throw in a thing that Holmes is not infallible, right? That he said, "Oh, it's just the strangler is this guy," and it turned out next day that no, this guy just got killed by the strangler. So I had a lot of fun. It was kicking around my head for a long time until the opportunity to write it presented itself with this anthology. So we're hoping. So
Okay,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I
So-
think I'm gonna definitely want to finish up this short story. I want to get through stuff quick. Like I can't be hanging on, because the thing with me is I went on this with this novella I used to write. I hung on to that for too long, and it dried up, and I just kind of kept going back to it. So I don't want to do that mistake. So usually when I make a mistake, I go in the entirely other direction. But I want to be able to like get these things going and out quickly. And I think that's important, especially like in something like a blog, right? So we've all been like writing blogs here and there, or at least most of us have been playing around with the blog genre.
I've been lately. Yeah.
Yeah, me
Yep.
too. And I just wrote the what is corporate Gothic? It kind of as a in reference to your corporate Gothic blog, Ricky.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Yeah. So, but I've been thinking about how to do it in a more timely fashion, right? Because I can't be investing in hours into a little blog, because that's all it is. It's a simple little blog, but I will go into it. So I said, okay, I'm gonna just. I did a blog this week. I did the what is corporate Gothic, and I spent hours on it. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna take me 1 hour. I'm gonna just finish up some thoughts and be done. I couldn't, Ricky. I couldn't. I just spent, and then I got into it because I get interested, and I get interested,
Sure.
and I get more interested in whatever topic I'm researching, and then I just end up spending hours. The next day I go back to it, I change it, I come up with a new direction or a new angle. It doesn't seem like I can do a quick little thing, and blogs can be quick and little. I just don't know if I'm capable of generating something. Can you do like, but you know, have you been able to, Ricky, like generate a blog in sort of a reasonable amount of time?
Blogs it's the same thing as short stories for me.
Mm.
It's the same struggle. And for
Mm.
me, it's all about word budget. Okay.
Yeah.
I am writing the Blavel at 1,000 words or maybe a little more per post. Now, when you're doing a Blavel, they say not to do that. From
Mhm.
what I read, it's supposed to be like 500-600 words. You're supposed to do little jabs. That's it.
Mhm.
I don't like that. I when I write a chapter, my chapter is usually like, if I'm writing a regular novel, it's like 2,000 words. So I have a word budget that's in mind that I'm not even thinking about that. I just have to fill that up.
Mhm.
So that's about your outline. For me, this is my process. It's about the outline. What
Mhm.
has to happen? Our two spies have to meet the Dragon Mafia Don. We got to meet the Dragon Mafia Don with them.
Mhm.
We got to find out how that dragon lives. What's his game? Is he like Smog? Is he like Nymeria from Game of Thrones or whatever? The ancient dragon riders. Dragon. What was the name? Ah, man, it's slipping my mind. I'm buckling. The point is, you have that set up in the outline, and then you just fill your word budget with
Mhm.
whatever's got to get done.
Mhm.
And if it stops, then you put it down and you think about more outline. You just, like, to answer your
No.
thing before, I'm not in my room. I'm in another universe.
Mhm.
My two eyes close, the third eye opens. I'm in another universe. I'm far, far away, as far from Earth as possible. That's where I'm streaking to, and I like my writing. That's the thing, though. I write cosmic fantasy, so
Right,
that's,
like, okay, but I
see what I mean?
understand in the fiction, like what's got to get done because you
Yeah.
have a vision and you got to accomplish X, Y, or Z, or
Yep.
the end of the story is not going to make sense, right? So
Correct.
you got to get that. But when you're writing a blog, you don't really know what's got to get done, right? Or maybe you have an
Depends.
idea. Then I start doing some Google searches. I go on Wiki. I start studying and researching stuff. I go in another direction. You know what I mean? And then I got to make sense of all this stuff that I've learned in the process.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
got
so
you.
what happens with the blog is I just end up like learning stuff, and then I'm writing about what I'm learning, and I enjoy that so much that I spend hours on it. But I can't do that on a blog. You know, it's just a blog. No?
Well, here's the thing, okay? Do the research and don't worry about it being for the blog. Do
Mm.
the research for the research.
Yeah.
And you keep the research in mind because it's probably going to inform some other project that you're working on.
Right. Right.
Like don't, and I don't look at research or reading. Like, to Tom's note, I listen to audiobooks pretty much constantly. Not while I'm writing. I listen to music when I'm writing, or I listen to a soundscape or something. I don't like words while I'm writing because then it seems to intrude. This is my mechanism. We're all different.
yeah.
We all do it a different way, but it intrudes on my writing mechanism. I like music, but I'm always listening to audiobooks, and I view that as a creative function. Like, I don't feel that it's a waste of time. I feel that it will enable me later to do what I have to do creatively. But obviously you want to be creative. So I get what you're frustrated. Some days are research days and you want to write.
Right.
And some days are writing days and you want to research. Like, you're learning about something and you're like, but then the muse hits and you got to start typing. So it's all,
I love writing. I love writing, whether it's fiction or it's
Me too.
nonfiction, like blogs, like just conversation. It's like having a car. I love to socialize, it's like,
Same. I agree, Julie. I agree. That's very, very, that's how I'm wired too. Very similar that way. Yeah.
But it's something with the simple, tiny, what are your thoughts on this matter blog thing that there's something in me that wants to turn a blog into an article,
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I this next one, what is Corporate Gothic? The same thing happened. A simple thing. I could have just brainstormed it. Instead, I had to do a whole bunch of research, and then I had to categorize my research, but I mean, I like it. I think it's more of an article than a blog, I'll be honest.
Maybe it's two blogs, two
Maybe
posts.
2 blogs? It could be.
Part 1, part 2.
It could
How
be.
long is it? How long is it?
It's not
what's
that
the
long. I don't know. I didn't count. I think it's probably 1,000 words. It's not that.
Yeah, 2 posts.
You could easily divide it up into 2 posts. I'd have to know what it's about though. I haven't even
Okay,
seen
so
it.
I mean, I think we're running a little long today, but that's fine. So,
Well, I
what
think
is
it's
corporate
almost
Gothic? I'm looking at the term
Oh.
and the literary genre.
Cool.
So the
Yeah.
literary genre of Gothic is really complicated.
uh,
You know, as you can understand. I mean, if you just Googled it, you're going to come up with a million pieces of information. You know, this.
so what's Gothic to what's Gothic to you though? Like the grand history
Yeah.
of it, there's a lot.
Either
What is it? What is it to you? You know?
I mean, what I do at the end is I start to look at some examples. So, and I look at corporate. I looked at Gothic and what it means: mystery, suspense, and monsters, inner and outer monsters. But they can be inner monsters, and we should have this as one of our topics during maybe our next live stream.
That sounds great,
Monsters
Julie.
are a fascinating topic, and Tom.
Hey Tom,
Yes.
you got anything to say about monsters, Tom?
Monsters from the id.
Yes, man. Those 2. You got.
They're in there. Everybody
Gothic
has them.
monsters.
What's that?
Yes.
Gothic monsters.
Gothic monsters. Oh yeah, the whole from 1931 with when Dracula first was released. That was a gigantic creative period with the Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy. And the Wolfman. I mean, it was amazing.
Wolfman.
That's
You
all
mean the
Gothic.
films. You don't mean the text. You mean the films, right?
Yes.
One rising from the other, I would imagine.
They all bled into each other, and the continuity was horrendous.
I've heard that.
Looking back, but that's another story. But it was just all Gothic stuff. Dracula was just dripping with cobwebs, and you know, and Frankenstein the same way. And all those stories were started with the Gothic tradition. They didn't start created. They just didn't. 1931. They didn't say let's do Friday the 13th. You know, which that's got no Gothic whatsoever. Well, not really, but they went with the classics.
Yeah, you know, but Tommy has a good point that there is horror. There is horror and Gothic together, and then there's horror that really is not in the Gothic genre, right?
No.
We can agree on that, right? Because it's lacking in that mystery. It's lacking in that sense of
Ambiance.
it's ambient. What do you think, Paul? Yeah, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's lacking in the moisture, in the mold.
Flavor.
Yeah, that's what
The
it is.
style. I mean, essentially, technically, it's the style, right?
Yeah.
Because you have horror, you have people running, and you have bloodshed, but you do have suspense. Well, you do have suspense, but you
Sorta.
don't have the romanticism, right?
that's
That
a
is
lot.
traditionally a part of Gothic.
Sure.
And Gothic, and as I just learned, you know, it started at the Romantic period. There's that whole sort of that sense of, but mystery in a more beautiful way, right?
Mhm.
It isn't necessarily. Well, I mean, all mystery may be beautiful.
Well, Dracula's a love story if you look at it.
I mean, it is,
Right.
and there is the high emotion, they said, of Gothic, and I agree with that. I mean, Wiki's pretty good sometimes. You know, it'll give you a quick summary, but it's accurate. So high emotion, I think you find that in the romances.
Yep.
So and the darkness is there. I
Well,
mean,
when you
horror
go,
can have darkness, but it's such a cold,
sure.
you know, evil. And I think in Gothic, it's given a little bit more breath. Maybe, I don't know, to some degree, some humanity.
Hmm.
Some
I mean,
romantic.
Dracula had humanity to him, even though he was absolutely inhumane. You know, he was this rich aristocrat in this gorgeous castle. He had these wonderful hobbies. You know, he had a life. He had a backstory to him.
Very romantic is the point.
Yeah, he was a tragic, figure.
was.
As you know, victim of his own curse. In a way, he wanted to be one of us, but he could never be.
Yeah.
Same with Frankenstein. Frankenstein wanted to just be
Just a
loved
regular
as
guy.
a person.
Wait.
Yo.
Frankenstein's monster, you mean?
Right.
Monster,
That's what I mean.
yes.
Yeah. There's a scene in the book where he eavesdrops on a family, and while the mother's teaching the kids English and words and images, he's learning right along with them because he wants to be one of us.
Yes.
And it's
So we'll have to go over more of this monster stuff next time.
Yes,
sounds good.
we do.
Oh,
I'm not sure if we're quite winding down yet, though. Are
We
we?
are.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't
You could close it up. Yep.
Okay, great, wonderful. All right, well, thanks a lot, everybody. Does everybody want to say goodbye and maybe say your name? I'm Julie Giroud here. Ricky, you want to introduce yourself and say goodbye?
Hi, Ricky O saying bye. I had a blast. Thanks for hosting, Julie. It was great.
yes.
Everybody
This is Tom
take care.
saying thank you very much, Julie. Awesome as always.
Oh, that's nice.
Our pleasure.
Thank you for
Yeah,
hosting.
Paul
Julie.
and
This has
Ben
been-
and
Our
Tom
pleasure.
here today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great,
See you later,
thanks,
Ben.
everybody.